And one is about a discussion of water, how we could go about addressing the concerns of our citizens and working with San Jose Water Company to address that. And secondly, an item on the safety of Saratoga, how we can be a little bit more effective, take specific action items to reduce the crime in Saratoga.
Howard?
Yeah, on the water one, and disclosure, right, I was on the Water Commission. I've talked with Rishi about this. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And this is such a confusing thing because I don't believe we have any legislative jurisdiction at all, and it's a private company, and the whole thing's a mess. Might I suggest that before we try to queue that up as an item, why don't we get a report from Richard or from staff of give us the lay of the land, tell us what's going on, tell us what we can and can't do, tell us how it fits. Because it's really hard. If we just have a meeting, people show up and complain, and I got no answers, and I got no basis by which to even give an answer other than say, it's not us. And that doesn't help anybody. So might I suggest, rather than trying to queue it up as an immediate council item, we queue it up as an immediate direction to staff to tell us what the heck our options are.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Richard, if we were to task you with an objective of going out, seeking out, identifying exactly what our jurisdiction is, what limits do we have in terms of ability to invoke change or to change the fee structure that's been put in place, as well as maybe taking a look at the language that was used by the PUC to justify the rate structure and the fee structure that was put in place. Is that something that you could do and come back to us with a report on, so that we'd have some sort of a basis for an agenda item at that point?
Yeah, that's something that we could do. I mean, my sense is that as Councilmember Miller said, and as Councilmember Kumar said earlier, that we really don't have any legal power. It's not something that we have control over. So I think that part of the legal answer, and I'll confirm that, but that part of the legal answer is pretty clear. The rate-making process is an incredibly complicated process. So we can do the analysis that you want, but it's a serious undertaking. I think that these proceedings typically take about 2 years. There are all kinds of filings, and there are consultants going in and doing detailed analyses of the cost allocations and things. So I'm not sure if you want that kind of background on how did we get there.
I think Rishi's kind of distilled some of it down to, there's all the rate making on the normal stuff. The one that's really complicated and is negatively impacting us is the surcharge. Is there a way to get some 10,000-foot view of what the heck, how they made the basis of the decision for the surcharge, and whether there's anything we can do to challenge that or request a change or whatever?
And if I may add to that, I think Howard is very much right. So the surcharge is really the biggest impact. And, just to understand, based upon staff research or based upon your research, Richard, but is there any specific option that our citizens have? Now, let me outline 3 options we have. And many of our citizens also don't know about that. So this is not for you, Richard, but this is for us here. Now, the 3 options are: one is economic hardship. The second option is to make an appeal. And the third option is to ask for an increase in your allocation. And I think while we do the research in parallel and we collect some information and data in terms of, how could we address the surcharge implications, the adverse implications of the surcharge on Saratoga, in parallel, we also make sure we provide information to our citizens that these are different options. And also as a collectively and the council, if we can also look at an option of making a collective City of Saratoga appeal with CPUC instead of citizens making individual appeals. How about a City of Saratoga appeal Or how about getting an elected leader, someone who's been there for decades, like Anna Eshoo or somebody, to go out and bat for us a little bit and see what could come out of that. So I think, we need to just consider a different sets of options, and that's for all of us, while in parallel we have staff researching this, That was my approach on this,
I think we need more information. I'd love to find out from Richard some legal stuff. I'd love to figure out these three options. I need to know more about what these three options are. So maybe it's more than Richard, maybe it's in parallel. Richard does some work and some staff does some work with San Jose Water to tell me what the options are. I know a customer can call San Jose Water if their pipe breaks and they'll reduce their bill. I know that one. But these other three I'd actually never heard about until tonight. Can we get more data and then we can decide how we want to proceed?
I would like to say, Howard, that these three components I talked about, they are fairly simple. I mean, they are there on the website.
I get that, but what I want is a report from staff that says, here are what the options are. And we'd all have the same information. We'd all be working from the same place. Right now, it's, you've done some research and we're not in phase with you. So step one, let's get staff to give us a report. Let's put it in a news item. Let's not wait for 6 months.
That's fair.
Let's make this information flow so we can all look at all of the same stuff. I think it would help us a lot to be able to have a basis by which we can decide what our next steps need to be.
So Howard, if we had the report on before our council meeting and then we put it on the agenda, would that be helpful? Or would you like to have a discussion of the staff report at our meeting before I'm just trying to understand the process.
No, I'm trying to understand what our options are, because we look at what the options are and there's something that jumps out at us, then one of us will agendize a discussion of that option. If we look at the staff report and it's a mess and we have no clear path, I don't want to just have we've had San Jose Water in twice, and then you've had them in on your meeting, so it's now 3 times in the last 18 months on this issue. We're not doing anything but pissing everybody off. San Jose Water's pissed off, and that's not in the best interest of our city and everything else that's going on. Our citizens are pissed off because they're not happy with their water bill, nor am I with mine. So it's about understanding so that we can come up with a plan that doesn't give false hopes and false expectations, and going straight into a meeting with a bunch of people for a fourth, if we count your meeting as a 4th meeting in 18 months, so that people can hear that we don't have jurisdiction.
So why don't we go ahead and do that?
So we're not really dealing with the way how it is calculated.
So again, we've got a request to staff to go and research, gather some information for us so that we can then take a look and see what are the limits, what is it that we're going to agendize that is meaningful to our residents' concerns. Can we do something like that? Is that sufficient guidance in terms of the direction that we're asking you to take in terms of gathering information on this?
I mean, I can, certainly work to pull together, and I'll focus on the surcharge since that seems to be the thing. And are there legal avenues by which we can seek to overturn that for being improper? And I will keep it at again, to actually pursue that legal challenge, I'll see, is there a procedural avenue that we can pursue? And I'm going to stop working at that point rather than trying to develop the arguments. But at least I'll be able to say, oh, yes, right, the PUC has this process, and I can report to the council on that.
Okay. That way, again, we have something that we can look at, we can evaluate and decide what is the best course of action to address this concern for our community. I think that's the key thing. As far as the programs that you mentioned, the hardship programs and so forth, those are fine, but I think those are already in place and can be implemented. And the resident just files or appeals or puts in the request for those pieces if they qualify.
Can somebody give me do we have those someplace? Are they on a city website that say, here's where you go to do these things? Or can we get that in a staff report? Somebody just tell me where I'm going. I got Rishi's slide deck. Is that my official source?
We would be happy to include that in the report back we're providing to the council. But then I also heard, do we have it on the city's website? We don't. That's the short answer to your question.
It could go on the website if people wanted it there. I'm more interested in getting the information for us. And I don't want to have to wait all the way till the next council meeting because, that's next month. Can this show up in our weekly in a week or two? I mean, how long is this going to take?
I suspect Richard's piece is going to take a lot longer than the piece, but if staff can research those elements of reductions in fees for residents and what the criteria is for qualifying for each of those, maybe we can get that fairly short order. But I suspect that Richard's piece is going to take a little longer.
Actually, I think it might be a lot simpler than what we are trying. So here is a suggestion that all these things are documented on the the San Jose Water Company website. And it sort of makes sense that we pick up those components, clarify any questions we have with San Jose Water Company, shouldn't take too much time, and then we send an e-blast into our city. So I think we need to provide them the information that here are 3 options, and perhaps there are any other options that are presented to us by San Jose Water Company. So I think we need to proactively send that information out. It doesn't need to be sitting in that slide deck, but it needs to be posted on Nextdoor by our city staff and get the word out there. What do you think, Howard?
Okay.
Again, it sounds logical. My biggest fear in the whole water thing is every time I talk to somebody, all I can do is disappoint them. That's how I really end up feeling because I can't give them an answer. And my concern, if that was the direction to staff, was we would be telling 10,000 rate-paying customers, here are 3 answers for which maybe none of them actually even work. And so I really am sensitive to this false hope thing because
I think we need
the
to
water
see,
thing is so unclear to me because I cannot see a way to get to an end through us. And if I send people to say, go get your allocation raised, I don't even know what the criteria is. And if 100 people call and they all come back no, then they're going to look back at us and say, what a bunch of morons. You sent me to do something that I can't even do. I get exactly what you're saying. This is why I keep saying I want more information from staff. If you tell me these 3 things exist but they're impossible to get, then that would be a false hope.
Yeah, but we don't know that. And so like you had mentioned earlier, I think we need that information from staff. Let's get that information. Let's have it distributed to each of us. Hopefully we can have it in relatively short order, at which point then we can decide how we want to distribute this, whether it's a blast to the community through Nextdoor and other means, or whether it's something that we will selectively give to those who qualify. I don't know. But again, we will decide what the best way is to handle that information. If this is information that's on their website, we should be able to pull it up and gather it and organize it in such a way that makes it very simple. I think we'll be fine. Is that okay?
So my question is, looks like we can turn it around very quickly. How will the council meet to make some sort of a decision in terms of looking at the data, reviewing? Will there be a public meeting? What's the plan going forward between today and our next council meeting?
I figured if something jumped out in the staff report, we'd bring it up as a council item at the next meeting. But that was just, like I said, floating around in the back of my brain.
Yep.
If this is a complicated process, I think we should give sufficient time for staff to prepare.
This is not a complicated process. There's 2 steps to this. A piece that Richard's going to do, that's very complicated, or a bit complicated. The stuff that we're having staff do relative to these discounts, if you will, that should be very quick and easy. And it's not a complicated process. It's well within our normal processes, as Howard had mentioned. We'll get the information through our typical newsletter information that we get from a city manager on a weekly basis. We'll have an opportunity to understand that, at which point our next council meeting, we can go ahead and add it on as council items at that point.
Okay.
For a future meeting, if we feel that it's something that's worthy of us taking action on. If there's no action that we can take, then we won't. But that's up to us to decide at that point.
Okay.
And I did have one suggestion for Richard, and if I may, which was, I think the surcharge, the way it is structured, it is meant to basically produce savings, water savings, because we are in a drought. That is the model. So to some extent, I think there is some sort of a reasoning behind why the CPUC approved it. And this was built upon Governor Brown's water reduction mandate and all that kind of stuff, So to appeal for that surcharge, obviously there's an appeal process, and like Howard says, we don't want us to be spinning in circles trying to do stuff that may not get us any return. So the question really is, if there is a surcharge appeal process, have we seen success demonstrated in our state, in any other state? And I don't know if that's a staff thing. It's probably not your domain. Just to do some research in terms of, like the legal side of it, in terms of how we could go through an appeal process. But more importantly, are there any use cases that we can go and replicate in our community? That's really where I'm going to.
Has anybody achieved success with the CPUC? I think that's the question.
Yeah, and that's something that we can, that's the kind of thing we can research in looking at the CPUC decisions. We've done that for the city in other circumstances. And, it's just a question of going through and looking at the proceedings. And frankly, what we'll probably do is talk to some people in the Office of Ratepayer Advocates and find out. I mean, there is a whole process, but there is often change in the midst of the rate-making proceeding, but what I don't know is once it's over, if there are opportunities to reopen it.
All right. Did you have another one? That's it? Just the water one?
The second component was safety.
Okay. And what would you like to see on safety?
So I'm a little confused on safety. You want a meeting agendized for the next meeting, but I thought we already have a meeting agendized for the next meeting.
We do. We have a meeting on September 7th, joint meeting with our Safety Commission. We also have a meeting October 19th that's agendized it's our joint meeting with our Sheriff's Office.
So the safety one, right? This is when the Safety Commission is reporting back.
Absolutely.
On the whole task that we gave them at the beginning of the summer about what we can do to improve public safety.
Right. Yep.
So that meeting is that a study session with us, or is it going to be?
That's a study session.
Okay.
It's unclear what there really are. It's a joint meeting.
It's a joint meeting.
That's scheduled at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think study session, we do it typically in the administrative room, and, a few people can show up. But, I think we need to agendize this and get some citizen input in terms of what they are going through, and see how we can make a collective decision. So here is my take. We would have gone through the study session, we would have heard the Traffic and Safety Commission out, we would have that data with us, and then we put it on an agenda, we hear some citizens and try to have a discussion and come up with some sort of a plan that takes into account what the Traffic and Safety Commission just said.
I'm so confused. Didn't we send the Traffic and Safety Commission off to talk to the citizens and find out what was going on and come back with some recommendations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did that quite a while ago.
No, but is that...
That's what we did.
I mean, safety is a big issue. I just really want to reiterate that. I don't mean to be frustrated here, but I thought that we had more than one meeting with the Traffic Safety Commission, including the joint meeting, and we sent them off to get public input, to work with the sheriff, to work with other things, to come up with some answers. Did that happen?
The Traffic and Safety Commission, did it meet the public? That is the question for the safety component.
Don't we have 3 meetings scheduled also that the city is helping to put on?
Let's finish this topic first. The topic is, did the Traffic and Safety Commission get public input for putting together whatever they're going to present to us in the month of September?
Since we're having a meeting with them, let's see what we hear from them.
No, I think the question is, did we get public input from did the Traffic and Safety Commission get public input for the safety component?
If they did, that's positive. If they didn't, then they didn't. But whatever it is, I don't want to delay that meeting. That one's already scheduled. And we should see what they come up with, and we should understand that process. And we do have a publicly noticed scheduled meeting for September 7th, specifically to discuss safety.
Sure.
And all we're arguing about now is whether it's at 6 o'clock or whether it's at 7 o'clock.
Yep. And also, Howard, I understand that we'll get some input, we'll talk about it, and perhaps there are some action items taken, that's great. But at this point, I think what our citizens want is some very specific, tangible steps that we take. Now, whether it comes out from the Traffic and Safety Commission or not, I don't know, because I don't know what they are going to present. Because very early on, I talked to somebody from the Traffic and Safety Commission, and I was told that we are not comfortable taking this extra workload. So they are working on something, but I don't know to the true extent what's going to come out from there. My take is, there is an angst in the community. People want specific action items to be taken. And that's the only reason why I would love to agendize it for our council meeting as well.
We gave the Traffic Safety Commission the task. Whether they're comfortable or not with the task, I know we assessed that, but they are a commission of the council, and they serve to satisfy these things, and we gave them a task to come back with specific recommendations. And public can show up at that meeting, and the public can provide input at that meeting. They can show up at this meeting and say, I was just at the last meeting for an hour and I hated what I saw. I think there's already a forum to do everything that you want to do, and then we'll know what the next steps are. What am I missing? This is specifically what we told the Traffic Safety Commission to do, was to come back with specific recommendations. And I know the timing is somehow not good for people because we had the whole summer break, but they're coming back. They're coming back on the meeting that you want, and we're only arguing about whether we're meeting at 6 o'clock in some room or 7 o'clock in a different room. Can't we accomplish the same thing with what we already have? And if it's not right, if they come back and all their stuff is bogus, then I think all of us are going to be clamoring to figure out how to have another discussion right away so that we can get something that's good.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the sessions that we have in this format lend themselves much more so to public input. Here it's a one-way dialogue where they provide us with their comments, they all finish up, and then we deliberate on it. Here is when we can have the free flow of dialogue between them in a much better format. And again, if there's something that we wanted our Safety Commission to perform for us, then we should have told them that back when we had instructed them to go and do this work. If there's something that we're deficient in as a result of their report back to us, then we can task them again to go off and work on some other aspects of this.
We talked for an hour about what we wanted them to do.
At least.
We gave a good list. And
remember, we had 2 sessions in which we gave them instructions.
There was very concrete instruction, and it may not cover everything, and one meeting doesn't solve the whole issue. Let me make one other question to Manny, right? We have the meeting with the sheriff.
In October.
That's October 19th.
Okay, are we willing to adjust that meeting?
Adjust the meeting in which way? To bring it in sooner?
No, the date's fine. I mean, we have the meeting scheduled, but can we do that one as the bigger thing, to bring in all the traffic or all the neighborhood watches and turn it into a neighborhood watch powwow meeting?
Oh, sure we can. Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So Rishi signed up 19 neighborhood watches. Or signed up is the wrong word, because there's a whole process. He has engaged 19 groups of people that expressed interest. Is that more fair?
We have initiated the process.
Yeah, and so my assumption is there's going to be 19 new ones. Maybe you'll lose a few, but you'll find a few more between now and then. And there's, I don't know, another dozen in our city. Mm-hmm. Why don't we use that meeting for the giant neighborhood watch? Should we have something on the 7th, something on the 20th of October, and we have 2 council meetings in the middle if we need to queue something else up?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I may, Howard, I think when you look at, we probably met in March or April, I don't know when we met with the Traffic and Safety Commission, and we gave them a work task. And that has now been presented in September, and we don't know if they have gotten public input or not. And I suspect they probably have not gotten public input, because I haven't seen a meeting notice where the public was invited. Right? So they have sort of worked in a vacuum without getting public input. And now my concern is still that our council, our city, needs to move. We need to take specific actions. And if we are going to look at that data and say, well, what action do we need to take? That the stuff when we talk about the neighborhood safety watch, that is already in motion. We are not really taking any action with that. We are just trying to basically see Howard, relax. We are trying to solve a problem here. We are having a dialogue, right? So relax. So the thing is, that neighborhood safety watch meeting, yes, I've been telling every neighborhood that I've met that we will have a larger meeting with a sheriff, and we will be certifying you for a neighborhood safety watch program. The value add that the city is doing with this is not a whole lot. It's not a whole lot because all we are doing is certifying. But what can we do over and beyond what we are doing today to address the crime? And that's the kind of discussion we need. Now, maybe that input comes from the Traffic and Safety Commission. That's great. Specific action item is what our citizens are wanting. What are we going to do?
We launched the process, and I don't want to subvert the process. I think we have to wait till we see what goes on with traffic safety on the 7th. That is exactly what this council instructed, and if we find their process deficient, if we find their recommendations out of touch or insufficient, or if we find their recommendations partial to what we want, then we take action after that. But it's hard to presume that they failed and say we're going to do some other public meeting until we know what they've got. And it is the 7th. There is going to be a meeting. Everybody who wants to come participate can participate in a meeting. We're only talking about 6 versus 7 o'clock.
Sure. Here is my suggestion, Howard. We have a joint session with them. We'll have a few people show up. They'll provide their input. And our joint meeting starts at 6 o'clock, I think. Yeah, so we'll get their feedback. We'll have some ideas. They'll show up here. They'll present. And, I still think that we should take that in a public meeting later on that evening, talk through it, and figure out if that works for us or not, and gather some more input. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
What are we doing at 6 o'clock then? We're holding a public meeting, we're gathering input, we're deciding what works, and we're making decisions.
And what we do, Howard, because many people, 6 o'clock, people are working, they don't show up, we put it on the agenda, and we are providing the conclusions and specific action items taken from that meeting. So which is basically, put it on the agenda as a safety item that we are basically going to be talking about the traffic and safety recommendations, and we'll take some action items from there, and that's the, yeah.
So we just changed, if we think the description of the agenda item for the 6 o'clock is insufficient, we direct staff to clarify that.
I'm sorry?
I don't understand what you're asking for. We're doing exactly what you said. It's already scheduled at 6 o'clock. I'm confused.
Okay. So let me ask it in a different way. No. It's basically the meeting with the Traffic and Safety Commission. My concern is, will it provide enough of an action item for our citizens to alleviate the safety issue we have today?
Let me give you the short answer, no. And the long answer is, it is a step along the way. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to take that step. And then after we see that step, we turn back around and we decide what else we need to do. Because this doesn't end on September 7th. We all know that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't end on October 20th or whatever, right? So we all agree to that. But I think the question is, process-wise, we go, let's find out what we've got, and then let's decide what action we want to take as a council.
I'll go with that. So here is the thing. I think we'll need a larger room, because I don't know, I think we might get a lot more people show up. Let's get a larger room for whenever it happens, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whenever.
Absolutely. We have the ability to do it. We've done it many times where we've gone into a larger room for these joint meetings when we anticipate that they will be well attended. And so we'll certainly have staff go and take a look and estimate the numbers. They'll discuss it with you to get a sense, because I think you have a better sense of how many people are going to be showing up. And we'll make sure that we've got the appropriate room to have this meeting. Is that okay?
I'd like to make a reminder, though, that we do have a closed session at 4 p.m. and we do have commission interviews at 5 p.m.
Okay. Yeah.
Scheduled that night.
Yeah, exactly. But this meeting is scheduled at 6.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Well,
is that okay?
If we had to, we could slide one of those things around. I mean,
if we had to, absolutely.
the fear on this is that an hour may not be sufficient if we're going to get a real report from the Traffic Safety Commission, and then we're going to get, real input from citizens who want to speak.
And I agree, we should be able to get the input from the citizens, but also on that night is the Village Design Work Plan, and that's going to have quite a bit of an impact too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So can we make it an hour and a half? Is that enough?
I think it would be good to have 2 hours,
We do an hour and a half for all the neighborhood groups. There's a precedent for those being an hour and a half.
I agree.
Is that a compromise enough, Rishi? I mean, it's more than an hour.
So we're talking about increasing the capacity in the venue, right, the location, and changing it from an hour to an hour and a half. Do I get nods?
Yep.
Okay, very good. That's what we'll do then. Okay. Any other council items? No? How about a city manager's report?
None tonight, thank you.
Okay, courtesy to our city attorney. All right.
Manny?
We are not going to adjourn.
I just have to ask.
Yes.
Did you ask for other council items? Because I missed mine.
I did.
I'm sorry.
I did. Oh, oh boy.
I had one. Can I interject a very
yeah,
small
please.
one, which
Yeah,
I
by
don't
all
think would be
means.
controversial for anybody up here? Again, it's my own personal fault for missing that, and it's also my personal fault on the mailbox issue. Can we ask for an update to our code to require all new construction install locking mailboxes that meet the postal office requirements? We already have something in our code that says you have to install per the post office rules. Can we just add a little tweak in there that say if it's a new construction, it has to be a locking mailbox?
Right. To have staff go and agendize that and put it on and put it together a staff report, correct?
I'm thinking this is, if everybody agrees that for new construction locking mailboxes, we should just say you have to do it. We could actually, I think, jump to staff and ask them to bring it back.
Bring it back.
Done.
Code change.
Does anybody agree with that?
Okay. All right. We've got a second there with Rishi, and let's get that agendized. All right. Very good. Anything else? Okay. No other council items? All right. Very good. We are not going to adjourn here. We're going to go into a closed session, and we'll report out after that in the administrative conference room. Thank you very much, everyone.
Trying to become the first sprinter ever to win 3 consecutive events. It's always one of the best events of the Olympics. Simone Biles is back in action. Andy Murray and Juan Del Potro, Team USA. Day of the swimming competition, and it might be Michael Phelps' last Olympic race ever. He'll be in the 4x1 medley relay. On the women's side, that same relay will feature breakout stars Lily King and Simone Manuel. So Celeste